個就咁咯喎，呢個冇揼袋，我 high speed 揼袋好。
但係你一做咧就分到
光暗嗰個，你一坐先。波士位咁啊！得唔得？係得嘅。得 ，OK，搞掂。咁啦，跳撚晒嗰啲係啊，行幾步行到就接幾步行到嚟呢度，企定成個 pose 咁咯。最好啦！啪入咗，啪都可以咁嘅，真係而家用啊！然後他看到的反應好舒服。走。我夠肉穿嘅，我睇夠唔夠肉先？夠肉穿啦。唔使收工啦，唔使。我呢度喂，佢散咗少少，喂，佢用咗，喂。打下咋？咁樣呢度搞清楚。哎，不要，捏住，然後我看這邊，看等一下，纏住了，把它偷雞了，這樣子啊，就這樣，一急，到你撩翻嚟，你撩佢，睇下你點樣，你就咁樣，其實都可以，但係你唔好撞，不要撞身啊你，啊都可以啊，其實。有冇意思啊？好些。1、2、3。
呢度一下啦，呢度一下啦，呢度一下。呢度第一下啦，啱啱等我打落嚟啦，呢度打過嚟啦，呢度打過嚟啦。幾下要？最好你啱切。啊，對。對，好，打中，打，OK， 帶條 cap， 有少少快，我咁樣打落去就入嘅，又快啲推埋嚟呢度有條痕，推埋一條痕，呢個唔錯嘅。 得唔得呢個？好似係嘛？即係知道係中咗毒，不過使唔使強調呢下咧？係嘛？佢呢個覺唔覺啊？Maybe 大人望就覺係嘛？因為我睇都覺就得咯。1、2、3。
看着先，
有啲亂啊！
1、2、3，跟。哎呀！點樣我有嘢黃咗字啊？係翻過冇見你入到。冇問題啊！我頭啊！你入到嘅。哦。你有睇佢？唔係我食肆望到佢㗎。因為我唔知你去邊度。喂！1、2、3。哎呀！
係個尾係爭少少。幾好啊！嗱，呢啲幾好，呢啲幾自然呢啲，係咪都幾自然啊？
呢個幾自然？
自然啊，冇招啊！
呢個自然。
OK 得，中一下先，我唔啊唔中啦，呢個打啦，我唔擋，我唔一撥擋砰，我唔中，篤。
兩機，1、2、3。好 ，sorry， 我知就得。唔好意思啊。1、2、3。
呢個應該快啲喎，呢啲幾好，幾自然嘅呢啲。呢個假啦，呢個假啦，呢個。
呢個會唔會我哋太快啊？因為砰，會唔會嗰啲 tempo 係咪？係咪應該？
都唔會剪埋咗。
再喐下先，再放鬆啲咧。
其實差唔多，你偷咗啲唔係比武啊嘛，大家喺度攞緊命。差唔多。2、3。睇，定。好。得唔得？得，呢個得啦啩
？1、2、3，出！刚一走我就走下面了，
很自然的
走下面了，
你看，
走的太多了。
啊，砰砰，低頭。如果你剛好低頭了，
我應該，
啊，比如說我低頭，
我應該放，
來低頭，砰，那下就很自然的。
我應該再放短一點，放太長了。1、2、3，走！
得唔得？我跳咗呢個，我掟過嚟啊嘛，一掟過嚟，OK，
慢慢要搖下。1、2、3，
有冇意思？
看，
睇一睇。呢下左，呢下右，
看，
有幫到手指啊！有幫到手指得未？你慘了你，這個。哎呀，
拿我那个。
你。
来，再来，看那个，先。来。
好嘞。
好嘞。OK，来，来人啊！好嚟，預備 ，OK，飛，1、2、3，
得唔得？前面應該冇問題。係啊。
1、2、3，
真係斷啦。
看，我先，OK，
飛
，1、2、3，
飛
1、2、3，
有冇意思啊？我嚟講啊，OK， 拍啦。
記得啊，好嚟拍，嚟預備，
裏邊。半隻乜嚟㗎喎？喺咩嚟㗎邊？嚇？半隻乜嚟㗎？對。喂，係。
好，大把刀。
都可以，都幾自然，食入少少就。
你話我呢下先啊？
即係呢個位，你拖，你路往扯呢度啊嘛，你或者你呢拖咧，你從呢邊又扣。
邊個咁高？啊？
快！啊，對。哦，哎，good。好上。對呢個尾啊，追多啲，而埋你呢個追多啲唔係好睇嘅。
你冇排下開係放。
哦，咁你慢沒有關係。啊。
前下係，跟住嚟，你打下你啦，只要腰開放唔得。啊，一個呢邊，一個呢邊，一齊。
沒有，我先順着這個。呢個你點做啊？我撥你都唔走嘅。少少呢個順着啦，呢個慢啲，係慢嘅。慢，呢度停。係。我做。係啊，呢度係。我還沒扶呢。停，來了。再來一個。順啲啦，唔好走位先。哇！呢個唔係呢個。哦，對，你要推。係啦，停。邊個停？係。停。到你個。一撥走，沒事了，走。
一二三。
係最尾我做得唔係好，佢都冇事，佢有啲翻嘅，不過都差唔多都好。頭先清楚啲，呢個有啲亂。呢度 OK 喎，你睇下呢啲係撥得唔清楚嘛？如果撥得清楚啲，嗰啲味道出嚟，所以有啲太過擾攘。到嚟一陣，係。嚟。預備 ，roll， 飛，一二三，好，記得啦。好，記得嚟喎，好拍，預備 ，roll 機，飛，一二三，開咗聲，再嚟，有啲意思，拉屎唔好，呢個拉屎嘅，唔係尾二，拉屎度，有呢個水。唔係啊，仲等佢得啦先，仲肉酸啊！你尾呢個好啲啊？之前嗰個就唔得啦，係嘛？唔得啊！我呢兩下都好。
嚟，預備 ，roll，
飛
，1、2、3。roll，
飛
1、2、3。
飛
1、2、3。
OK。
但係第一下咧，呢下咧係你要用手擋嘅。
唔緊要啦，你都卡不到。你呢個啪啪。OK，再打下去就差不多。OK 啊，呢個幾好啊，大家呢度。還有我在推嘛，你看這個，那個是比剛才那個。
剛試過下。
最好你 upgrade 咗10%， OK 嘅，因為中間沒有停嘛。係第一下麻麻地，但係都啱啱呢個好，呢個啱啱好。
拉屎呢頭，
使唔使？有收咁啊？
反而呢邊啱啱幾叻，啱啱衝勁，應該差唔多嘛呢個。
你齋 perfect 咧，但係有時候我點 high speed 噴唔到出嚟？知
俾少少加號，
好麻煩喎 high speed， 得唔得啊？
嚟
action，
好似停咗少少啊！你喺咩處境？
我想嘔啊！
想嘔啊？咁快？冇啩？仲有朋友㗎嘛？好。
誒，
多啲啊！
OK。得。
多啲。得唔得啊？呢個好多咯，應該有啲意思啊！
哇靠！
好嚟，好，嚟拍，預備 ，roll 機，
飛
1、2、3。看。
淨係個尾位。
1、2、3。
得唔得？
得嘅。看。
但係咧，我覺得咧落。
我哋準備 ，roll，
飛
action。roll 機，
嚟
1、2、3。1、2、3。Go. Good.
好花喎你！嗱，呢個啦，自創翻咗。我咪女人。
好，搞掂，得㗎啦，好，當到啦，
已經爭你仲有一個。
或者我哋兩個演員冇啦。Thank you，多謝，thank you 啊，辛苦。我哋拍呢個還差5斤這個翻了那個鏡頭，從那邊打過來，挖一山100刀。
辛苦大，辛苦大，辛苦大各位。
哦，唔係萬歲咩？
都忘記咗。
有幾個 shot 嚟嘅？吸我氣，再吸呢度。啊！放好機得。好啦，射。
翻晒，收工。
過3000萬啦！3000萬票房
，4000萬啦！
Oh, hi, Bay Logan here with Donnie Yen, looking at this behind-the-scenes footage from the making of SPL, aka Killzone. Donnie, this must take you back.
Yeah, a little bit. This is a scene. It's actually the second biggest fight scenes of the film, and I remembering this particular alley scene. It took a lot of thinking to create the scenes, you know, because in the original script there wasn't any hand-to-hand combat. It was after the first cut, and then I realized that we needed a couple of these really solid, back to the basic hand-to-hand combat fight scenes. So I kind of asked the producer to put in additional funds for these two scenes. And as you can see, even with additional funds, we didn't really have that much of money to work with. So what I did was I used the most inexpensive location, which is an alleyway. As you can see, there's no props. But anyway, it served the purpose because what I want to do is get back to the basics, hand-to-hand combat, without overly using what we do today in most action movies, which is you know, a lot of explosions and
wires,
crashing props, and,
effects,
you know, effects, and it's just pure martial art fighting.
How many days were you in the alley?
This is 5 days.
Okay.
I mean, I know days-wise compared to Hollywood productions, you know, I've worked in both Hollywood production and many Asian productions, and the difference between what we do martial arts scenes, we spend a lot of days because we do not believe in just shooting coverage for these articulated physical martial art movements. It has to be in the most perfect angles and camera movements for individual move. Therefore, it takes more time to set up the shots. In other words, we can't just set up multiple cameras and expect to capture at all angle and then try to cut it up. And that's not the way to do it. Unfortunately, in many of the, even today in many of the Hollywood production, and they believe in it just, you know, lighting up, spending a couple of days of lighting up and set up multiple cameras and expect to capture everything and go back. It's impossible. This is art we're talking about. We're filming art here. You know, like for example, see these two hands move? What I was doing with one of the villain in the film. You know, these are very particular and exact martial art movements, which need to be filmed accurately and precisely. You know, might be a close-up over here, might be a shot over here to capture the essence and the power and the dynamic of these movements.
So what we're seeing is the process, really, you have the concept and you show the stuntmen and they show it back to you and you're figuring out the angles?
In traditionally, as a martial art director in Hong Kong, basically, they are the director.
Right.
They take over the set. As you can see, you know, we come up with all the choreographies to where the cameras are placed, all the way to the editing room until the cuts, the final cuts.
Right.
In my case, because I've been established in Hong Kong for so many years and
when I do my film, whether I'm the action director or just purely the actor in the film and working with another action director, for example, I usually would probably take over the set. And I believe that's the best way to bring out the essence, because I don't think anyone know these martial art movements better than the martial arts himself, So what I do is I come up with the concepts, and of course I discuss with the director. If I direct the whole film in that particular film, then I try to collaborate these action concepts along with the drama. But in this case, working with Wilson, I will work with him and then brainstorm with him what kind of overall concept and style we want to capture with the lenses, with the camera perspective.
Right.
And then I go into the choreography. I don't just go into the choreography because I believe in the theme, the feel of the scene first, then the exact movements, right? Then once I decided the mood, the theme, then I come into these so-called movements. And all movements are determined by the rhythm I feel which is required during the moment. And when I mean during the moment, some of it rely on actually during the moment, and other half is understanding the characters and basically understand the drama of the whole background of the film.
Now, what amazes me is I'm watching you kind of like watching the guys go through those movements, and you're not making any notes or talking to an assistant, but you in your mind, I can see your mind working. What are you thinking? You're thinking, what's the angle? What's the camera speed? Where do I edit?
Everything, every little thing. For a non-martial film person, it's very difficult for them to understand and how I film anyway, without a storyboard. Or even professional film people, they wouldn't understand how can I come up with these articulated movements without storyboard and just able to do cuts. And let's put it this way, we're like painter, and of course it takes years of martial art training and years of film experience to understand the technical side, from the actor point of view, from the martial art point of view, from the director point of view. So the combination of all these experience, I was able to kind of have everything on my head. Then of course I make adjustment here and there, as I direct through the film. But I usually pretty much see the whole picture, the final cuts, how the scene's gonna look like.
Right.
And I just kind of play with it like a very good musician. You understand the feel, the theme, you write the structure of the music score, and you just kind of play, you jam with it, and you make adjustment along the way, and you feel a certain mood needs to be required. For example, I'm fighting him. Actually, this whole combination over there. Of course, it was pre-choreographed in my head, the whole concepts, but at the same time, they are in different combination each take, meaning that I would have a flow, a direction. But sometimes when I go, I add a couple moves or cut out a couple moves. I go with it. The free. It's like a musician.
Right.
You jam. This. All these movements. They're really not choreographed. I choreograph the concepts of it. Say, okay, I'm gonna attack this guy. Say about 4 seconds, and then I'm gonna back up for 4 seconds. That was the direction I was given my counter fighter, and I just kind of play with it.
Right.
See, these moves, I add in a couple moves here and there. It's depending on how I feel. It's like I said, it's like a great jazz musicians. They go along with how you feel. So you can't see my choreography. You can see the concept of it. You can see the whole direction of it. I'm attacking him, I'm blocking, but as I'm going with into the character, some of these movements flow naturally.
The great thing about this is people can actually see this. People always ask me, how fast do the guys move? Because sometimes the film speed has changed. And here we're looking obviously on video, so this is what you're seeing is what you're getting, and it's really, you guys move so quick.
Actually, I slowed it down for him, because I was going so fast.
Right.
He just didn't know how to react to it, right? I'm kind of known for my speed in the circle of Hong Kong action film. But I am the first one to admit that we do crank up the camera to speed up and to get that effect, right? That is the effect we wanted to get. But at the same time, we try to capture different effects accordingly. So sometimes I crank it up, sometimes I slow it down purposely.
Overall, what was this sequence shot at? What kind of speed?
Oh, normal speed,
right.
Normal speed.
So shoot 24 for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was going so fast that the camera couldn't even catch it. So I need to slow it down so the audience can see it clearly.
Another interesting thing, I was showing some of this to a British director the other day, and he said he'd come over and spoke to an action director or DP who did action movies. He said the first rule, you never shoot action using the tracks. You never use dolly shots with action. I'm looking at this. The whole thing is with tracks.
Whoever told you that? That person would never say that to me.
Right.
I don't believe in there's a set rules of camera movements. You can do anything with what you want with cameras, especially technology today. You can get a DVD camera, you can get some sort of phone camera. You can start shooting. You can shoot it from every angle because the camera through the lens of the camera is what the eye sees. You know, so you can look at these movements, these martial art movements, or whatever. You can look at the subjects, the objects from various of angles and perspective. There's no fixed rules, right? But of course, as an experienced action actor, I would have great choices for the angles and how I like to bring these movements to the maximum visual effects, right? So I would present a couple of angle here, angle there, but there's no fixed rule. I mean, look at the camera. The camera's actually shooting at eye level.
Right.
I might track back a little bit. It's depend. I mean, I flow with it. Sometimes I would choreograph a movement, and then I would set up the camera and say, okay, I'm gonna move from this A to B and then to C, and then I'll pause here. And the camera, this is what I want with the camera: capture, follow us to there, and then stop there, or whatever, right? Or sometimes I would have a particular camera movement, and then I would improvise certain movements to work with that angles, with that camera movements, to get the visual I want. So it's all about bringing the whole piece of music together, you know, and joining them together. I'm getting these shots, getting that shots, and you have all these visual already built up in your head, all edited. Then you just kind of play with it and put them all together.
So on this day, you got 2 cameras.
The other camera, usually I have 2 cameras for safety, but usually I don't believe in you can capture 2 best angles. You can only have 1 preferred best angle, okay? So the other camera usually are for backup. Or just in case when I'm cutting my film, I say, I might have an alternative of other choices, right? But
I saw when you're first walking into the alley, there's a crane. You just had the crane for that to establish the location of the beginning?
Yeah, just one shot, because I felt I needed a crane to show the geography of the setting and also the mood. Of course, when I was setting up the shots, I was thinking of music as well, because I spend a lot of focuses on the music through the whole film, So when I'm actually choreographing the scenes or acting through the whole film, I'm always thinking of music, what kind of music that would fit in these shots. So in the beginning scene, I felt that a certain moody music should come in, or some sort of faster-paced music or whatever, right? Then I set up the crane shots. That's kind of like a build-up shot, like a atmosphere shot, I call it, right?
Sure.
And then you go into the alley. Then, of course, I kept the camera more on a still position to really let the audience feel the 2 fighters, preparing for life and death situation.
Got it. Now, when you're shooting this kind of action sequence, you're not recording any sound. Do you have a guide track now for sound?
Yes or no? We're going so fast. We don't need. It has to be dubbed.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
How involved do you get with because the sound is probably really important in terms.
I get involved in as much as everything to anything.
Right.
Throughout the film.
Right. For the sound design.
That's. I known to have that practice. Because at the end of the day it's the whole package. It's not just a bunch of movements.
Right.
See, what you see is a bunch of movement over there, but these are the bunch of movements that were created with a thought-out music, rhythm, camera angles, camera editing point, how this whole action scenes fit into that moment of the whole the film, before the scene, that's the drama, and what's happening after this, So it's one big puzzle. Say, if one action scenes, there are a few thousand shots, say 3,000 shots, right? And this scene takes, what, I don't know, 200 shots or something, right? Then this is the 1/15th of the entire film. So when I put this 1/15th puzzle into the entire film, so I have to think of the balances. I have to think of how this film will interact with other, the 14th other parts.
How hard do you find it to kind of shift between acting, when you're obviously in front of the camera, and then you get back behind the camera, you're directing? Is it hard to do to shift back?
No, I've been doing this for many, many years. Yeah. When I'm acting, I am very aware of where my cameras are. So when I'm directing, I would see the person in front of the camera as being me. So if I'm fighting, say in this particular scene, I'm fighting the villain. I'm fighting him, I'm actually fighting myself. Because when I choreograph him, or I expect how he moves, I expect him to move how I would be him in the shot. So you see what I'm saying? So I'm thinking of several things I'm thinking of two things at the same time,
Right. What made you choose that particular weapon? I think it's called a kaibo, the Japanese police truncheon.
I wanted to play with, first of all, I wanted to use props that fit into the character, the real situation. I'm a police. I wanted to use a police baton, right? And I want to use small weapons, I mean, and I wanted to break some grounds as far as using small weapons. But a lot of times, when you start shooting small weapons, it's very easy to start shooting a bunch of close-up, because most people tend to think, oh, small weapons, tiny objects, you go into a close-ups, but that's not the level I wanted to reach. Right. That's easy, cutting it up and shooting a bunch of close-up, but I wanted to see how a person would handle a small objects as an entire body, how the entire body moves, right? So, of course, I cut into a close-up as well, but only at certain very important moments I cut into a close-up. But usually, I just want to let the audience see how the other person swings the knife and how I handle the small police baton, right? The most difficult part of swinging these two weapons to fit into what I just said and trying to show the whole body movements. When I mean showing the whole body movements, meaning that many of the times I need to show a wider shot. Right. And a wider shot with a smaller weapon, you can easily look very small. Movements can be very small, right? And you can look tiny, and you can look static. So in this case, we have to exaggerate our body movement when it comes to a wider shot.
So that's what the other hand is doing. Right? And you also you're shifting stance while you're fighting.
Stiffen stance and exaggerating movement, which takes more energies and and of course you got to close up the physical movements when they're cut into a closer shot.
So when you're shooting this kind of range, what kind of lenses do you tend to be using?
It depends, like say this couple of combination over here, right? As I recall, I don't remember the particular movements because it's been a few years, but it looks like it's not too big of a movement, so I'd probably go into probably a knee level, just to see most of the upper bodies, because it emphasizes on these blocks and swivels and how I. But if
if I have a lot more footworks and we're not as close range, and we have distance to play with, then of course I go open wider shots, right?
Right. And do you have any particular preference in terms of film stock, or is that something the DP chooses?
Usually I leave it up to them. You know?
Right.
They can't control everything.
Yeah. The Hong Kong DPs actually are kind of the unsung heroes because they're the guys that have to operate and deliver what the action director wants to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's all from experience.
Right.
These people work tons of movies per year, so they have a lot of experience, especially shooting action movie in very little times. They have to, load up the camera stocks as quickly as possible. Getting the focus, pushing the dolly. Everything has to be fast because I'm moving on. After this shot, next shot, after this, and the next shot, and moving on to the next scene.
So when you're shooting on a night shoot like this, how many hours would it be usually?
All night.
So really just sundown till sun up?
Until whatever time you have,
And then are you cutting as you go along? Do you go in and cut during the day?
No, I usually shoot a couple of days of rushes, and I see it once it's processed, and when I go to the processing room or the editing room to look at the rushes and see how it went. But I usually know what I have a predicament how they would turn out anyway. So unless I'm really unsure and I need to see these rushes, but usually I would know ahead of time that how it's going to turn out. So I wait until maybe a few weeks and just a bunch of rushes, a bunch of dailies, all joined together to watch it at one time.
Now, I know, looking at some of the behind the scenes here, there's some segments of the fight that got cut out. I guess was the long version was running too long for the finished film. Do you remember any of that? There seemed to me some sections that didn't make it to the final cut.
No, actually,
Is it pretty much all in? Okay.
No, because I have to cut out some of his. I'm trying to change the way he fights. It's because he comes from a very, we'll call it wushu, like a form of Chinese martial arts, which is more of a performance, emphasize on more performance than the actual combat, which is something that I do not want in this movie.
Right.
So when I cast him, and I pretty much told him that, look, you have to take away some of how you fight, and we're going to change all that. And then I'm correcting him as we film. And as you can see, sometimes my lips move. I'm actually talking to him as we're fighting and say, okay, a little bit more power here, move to the left. I'm coming at you with this. I'm giving him the signal. Say, I'm breathing and making sound as I fight. These sounds are signals for him, the rhythm. Like, okay, I'm gonna hit you from this, block here, this, like hit, so he get a signal. So he kind of so it's kind of follow my rhythm, right? And I'm and then of course afterward I'll show him the playback and say, okay, this is I don't want this because you're too showman over here.
Right.
You look too posy or too soft here. It doesn't have that intensity that I want. So that's why some of these shots are cut out at the final cuts because they didn't deliver what I wanted.
Because you and I were both around way before they had video assist. I think on Iron Monkey there was no video assist.
Yeah.
In those days, you just basically had the judgment of the DP then?
Judgment of DPs and judgment of yourself, understanding the lenses. Whatever lenses, you got to have a very good understanding of what kind of lenses and how wide they are, how close they are. So you predict, It's all pure from a lot of experience.
You were saying before.
I was fighting him and I'm backing it up. I'm talking to him and say, okay, come at me here. Come closer, charge over here, and go faster. Block here and do this.
Your brain moves fast. You must think the rest of us are in slow motion by comparison. Is there anybody you've ever worked with in a movie who was quicker than you?
Actually, no. Actually, no. I mean, I worked with Jet.
Yeah.
I worked with Jackie twice, Jet Li twice, and we fought in several occasions.
Right.
Jackie in hand-to-hand combat in Shanghai Night, and and then another film, Twins Effect 2, you know, with weapons, and with Jet Li, both weapons. So, unfortunately, I never had a chance to have an on-screen fight with Jet Li, you know, hand-to-hand combat, because that's my specialty anyway, not the weapons. And usually I have to slow down I certainly slowed down a lot for Jackie in Shanghai Nights as well as Twins Effect 2.
Yeah. How many on your stunt team for this movie? I noticed you got I think there's 3 stunt guys here in the alley with you.
Well, I usually keep a team of people, you know, because that's another example that why do we need a team of people from all these Hong Kong action? Because say 2 people fighting, right? Sometimes I need 2 assistants to walk through these movements so I can see it and make a final decision, right?
Yeah.
And 3 people for 3 people on this, you know, so it goes on, right? And one person has to look at the monitor, the other one. This is a scene where there's no wire work.
Right.
You know, just imagine wire work. One person needs a field person to wake him up. So with 2 person flying with the wire, you need a team of a dozen people. So I had a very hard time working in a couple of Hollywood production because producers just doesn't understand how complicated and how sophisticated these can be, you know, and we need a lot of manpower and hours of shooting. And I remember working in Blade 2, it was ridiculous. I mean, I spent, practically just a few hours to come up with movements and had 2 or 3 people, you know, basically with nothing.
This is actually going back to the glory days of Hong Kong action films because you've got this whole fight sequence happening, no wires, no special effects, and no doubles. It's these 2 guys who can really do it, which used to be the way back in the 70s and 80s, but we've moved beyond that. I also noticed the blood's a lot more realistic than it used to be.
Yeah, well, you know, of course, technology advances, you know, and filmmaking is in technology as well, you know, as well as art. But at the same time, filmmaking is about storytelling. And storytelling, to me anyway, you know, is about telling the truth.
Right.
Meaning, I mean, it sounds very philosophical, right? Telling the truth meaning that you have to bring your truest emotion to the character. And that goes with the martial art. That goes with the action, right? The setting, the story background, the theme can be dramatized and can be surreal, but the character's emotion needs to stay real.
You have some truth to what's going on. I noticed just there's a technical thing. There was a guy squirting. Is that blood?
Yeah. That's just blood. Some of the tricky move. I mean, of course, we can't afford, you know, all the sophisticated devices, you know, in Hollywood, you know. So we use the most basic stuff.
Look at that.
You know, basic, you know.
This is actually
squishing blood out of the little bubble, the little plastic bag, you know. I mean, as long as I get the shot done, you know. I mean, that's the bottom line, you know. It's the.
So unless you're having like a little, the end of our sequence here, we have like a celebration. Was this the last towards the end of shooting? This sequence? How far did it come into the sequence? Because you guys are popping some champagne. And,
I think that's
this was towards
the
very
last day of the whole movie.
So you mentioned before that originally they were not meant to have these martial art fights. It was much more guns.
No, I mean, just we ran out of budget, you know, even though it was shot under a relatively small budget anyway to begin with. But at the end, we didn't have enough money to do a fight scene. So I went to the producer and said, just give me the most basics, and I just find some alleys, you know. And
well, certainly delivered. As you know, everybody probably knows who's bought the disc because it'll say on the front, won the best action at the Hong Kong Film Awards, which was well deserved. And it was a strong year. You know, you had movies from Choi Hart and Jackie. There's the producer,
your friend,
guy that paid, my buddy, guy that paid for everything. So this is obviously, this always happens at the end of a shoot in Hong Kong. Pop the champagne or whatever.
Pop the champagne. You know, just to,
that young-looking fellow between to Donnie's right is Wilson, the director. Still looks like a school kid. Yeah. You guys have a great partnership, don't you?
Yeah.
And Dragon Tide, as we're speaking here, Dragon Tide Gate's about to come out, which is going to be awesome with the same team. So out of 10, what do you give this?
Perfectionist I am. I always look to strive to be better.